December 22nd, 1991. The New York Jets are looking to get back into the playoffs for the first time since 1986. And standing in their way is the Miami Dolphins. The battle for the final wildcard spot was kind of a dumpster fire in the AFC that year, as it came down to a winner-take-all game between the 8-7 Dolphins and the 7-8 Jets. Whoever won the game would get in the newly expanded playoffs as the number 6 seed. The stakes were high. They were so high, in fact, that Joe Robbie Stadium was sold out. And keep in mind that all season, Miami had struggled with attendance. Earlier that month, in a Floridian battle for supremacy against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they only sold 51,000 seats. So for this game to sell out was a huge deal. And what followed was a classic game that went into overtime. And it came down to this man right here, Raul Allegre, kicker for the New York Jets. He had the chance to get the Jets back into the playoffs for the first time in half a decade. On December 22nd, 1991, he was about to step on the field for the biggest kick of his life. On December 17th, 1991, Alegre was unemployed. This is the story of how Alegre, in a span of less than a week, went from a kicker without a job to the man responsible for arguably the biggest kick in the 60-year history of the New York Jets.
And if it's a close game today, the Jets have a new kicker. Raul Allegre signed this week to replace the injured Pat Leahy, and he'll be the field goal and extra point kicker for New York in this crucial game today.
Before we talk about the kick itself, let's back up just a bit. Alegre wasn't just some random guy off the street. He had been kicking in the NFL as early as 1983, back with the Baltimore Colts. In 1986, he was kicking for the New York Giants, and was the team's kicker during their Super Bowl 21 victory, which was the Giants' first ever Super Bowl win. As a side note, I made a video about how Super Bowl 21 almost took place in Philadelphia, if you want to check that out. Alegre was a solid kicker in the NFL, and in 1988, he hit 90.9% of his kicks. During that 88 season, there were 32 kickers who attempted at least 10 field goals. Alegre ranked second in percentage, only behind Eddie Murray of the Detroit Lions. And amazingly, despite going 20 for 21 and hitting 95.2% of his field goals, Murray did not make the Pro Bowl that season. And of all Giants kickers who attempted at least 10 field goals in a single season, at the time, Alegre had the best field goal percentage out of all of them. He hit 90.9% of his kicks that season. For some perspective, only one other kicker in franchise history, up until 1988, hit over 77% of his kicks in a season. However, in 1990, Alegre got hurt, and the replacement kicker, Matt Barr, did really well. In the 1990 NFC Championship game against the San Francisco 49ers, the Giants won 15-13. Barr was responsible for all 15 points. He hit 5 field goals, including the game winner as time expired, and sent the Giants to Super Bowl 25, where they wound up winning their second title in 5 years, this time against the Buffalo Bills. Due to Alegre's injury, Barr had taken over as the team's kicker, and he didn't let go of that job. Alegre was released during the offseason, and while he came back to the Giants for just a bit in 1991 after Barr got hurt, he was released again once Barr came back. Alegre lost his job in New York after suffering an injury. He was about to get another job in New York through the same fate.
This is a 22-yard attempt for Leahy. He's 24 for 34 for the season. And this time, it is good.
In 1974, the man kicking for the New York Jets was Pat Leahy. He was kicking for New York at a time where they were still playing at Chase Stadium, and at a time where their starting quarterback was still Joe Namath. And by 1991, Leahy was still there. At the age of 40, Leahy was still going strong, and he was still kicking for the team. However, he had nerve pain and was ordered to bed rest, and he wouldn't be able to kick in Sunday's critical game against Miami. So now the Jets needed a kicker, and they wound up signing Raul Allegre. Little did Alegre know at the time that he would be the man responsible for sending the Jets to the playoffs. On 4th down, with 48 seconds left in the 4th quarter, Dan Marino threw a 1-yard touchdown pass to give Miami a 3-point lead. And if the score held, then Miami would be in the playoffs for the 2nd straight season. But Ken O'Brien did just enough to set the Jets up for a 44-yard field goal on the ensuing drive. And Jets head coach Bruce Scoslett seemed really loose in the situation and wasn't nervous at all about Alegre.
And their coach in a confident mood.
Sure enough, Alegre hit the 44-yarder. And in overtime, tasked with hitting a 38-yarder, Alegre delivered the goods again. In less than 1 week, Alegre went from no job to hitting the game-tying field goal and the game-winning field goal to keep the Jets' season alive and send them to the playoffs. His short time with the Jets in 1991 was the last time that he ever kicked again in the regular season, as he retired that offseason due to back pain. The Jets would make the playoffs after that kick, but would fall to the Houston Oilers 17-10, putting them in the rare situation of being a playoff team with an overall losing record, as on the season they were 8-9. But I'm not sure how many players who played in one regular season game for a team are as beloved as Raul Allegre. In his one game with the Jets, he hit some of the biggest kicks in franchise history, from unemployed to a hero in less than a week. That is the story of how Raul Allegre's career ended in storybook fashion on an emphatic bang.